This podcast is a chance for me to sit down with so many great people that I've met over the years and get to know them better. I get to ask them a lot of questions about what they do, both for work, what they do personally, and maybe learn a few life lessons along the way. It's a really fun sort of coffee conversation, and I'm hoping you'll grab a cup of coffee and join me. Another episode of Strange Currencies. I'm very excited today to sit with Alex Portera. He is the founder and CEO of Rally Media. Rally On Media, and we're gonna take some time to probably spend a lot of time talking about crowdfunding, which is a big thing right now, as well as kind of what he does. He's got a really interesting story too. So super excited about this. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, I'm really excited as well.
Yeah, this will be fun. So we talked about this earlier. I took some time to kind of get to know you a little bit better through LinkedIn and some other ways, but you have a really cool story. So I'd love to know a little bit. You started on Deloitte, right? You started in the consulting side, and then I'm sure that probably had a pretty big influence on how you started Rally On Media. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I started my career as a management consultant at Deloitte Consulting in New York. Kind of like the up in the air style consulting, traveling 4 days a week, leaving Monday morning, coming back Thursday night.
Yeah.
Not super glamorous overall. I was a PowerPoint and Excel monkey, just doing whatever I needed to do, aligning slides and boxes and whatnot. But cool exposure. It was a really great job, and Deloitte is actually a really great company. But after 3.5 years, you basically either go to business school or go find a new job, and I didn't want to go to business school. So
okay.
So I quit and decided to drive a car around the world.
That's why I want to talk about this. It's like so fun.
You got to jump forward to Rally On, but the name Rally On comes from my friends and I, my co-founder at Rally On, doing 2 rallies where we drove a car from London to Mongolia called the Mongol Rally, and then we drove from New York to the end of South America and called it the Rally to the End of the World, because we kind of hit like southernmost point in the world besides Antarctica.
Oh my God. So I got to ask you a few questions about this. Number one, like, how did it come about? And then I'll ask some more technical questions, or how long does it take to do one of these races?
Yeah. So it came about because my friends and I have been talking about doing the Mongol Rally. That's like an organized-ish event that happens every year. A few hundred people do it. Yeah. And we always wanted to do it, but we all had jobs. And so a bunch of my friends decided to quit our jobs at the same time in order to do that trip.
Oh, that's fun.
And so we bought a car in London. It took about 3 months. The driving itself was about 7 weeks, and then there's some time. I learned how to drive stick shift right before.
You didn't even know how to drive stick shift before that?
Stick shift, and we were driving in London, so the steering wheel's on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
And so I was learning both stick shift and how to drive opposite steering wheel, which resulted in a lot of tickets, a lot of parking tickets, and a lot of like traffic violation tickets in London.
Wow.
That we didn't know about at the time. Anyway, so we drove through 19 countries, and it was unbelievable. And while we were preparing to do that, a friend was telling his uncle about it, and that uncle was producing a TV show for the travel company Lonely Planet about people doing kind of crazy adventures. And when he heard about what we were doing, he said, "Hey, can I give you some cameras? I'll give you a little bit of money, like paid for, I don't know, 1/10 of the trip.
Yeah.
And will you film it? And can I use the footage to make a TV show?" And we said, "Sure." We were doing this anyway. We'll take the money and film it. That sounds cool. And we got back from the trip, handed over the footage, and he looked at it and said, "I really like this. Instead of making you guys part of this broader series I'm making, can we actually make a series about you guys doing these trips around the world?" And at that point, like, we'll do that. I honestly hesitated. And then this guy was like, "Do you know who Pete Best is?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Exactly. Pete Best was the 5th Beatle who never made it. He stopped, grew up." And I was like, "No, I don't want to be Pete Best." So my friends and I thought we were going to be Anthony Bourdain. And we spent a year, 13 months living out of our car, camping on the side of the road around South America and filming everything. And in that process, really fell in love with filmmaking, with the way the camera can help you uncover stories and get you into situations that you otherwise wouldn't, because you kind of have this like other item that people can engage with. People say, "What are you doing?" say, oh, we're filming a TV show. They say, oh, that's so interesting. Like, what is it about? It's like, oh, we're traveling and we're looking for interesting people and stories. And a fisherman in Nicaragua says, oh, do you want to get on my boat tomorrow morning and go out into the Pacific Ocean to fish with me? And we say, sure. And then suddenly my friend's on, a 20-foot fishing boat from a rural town in Nicaragua out in the middle of the sea at 4 a.m.
That's amazing.
And so that's how I kind of fell in love with filmmaking in that way. And when I returned from that, the TV show didn't go anywhere, unfortunately. It's I think the most interesting show to ever grace the corridors of Dropbox. It's just sitting on a Dropbox somewhere collecting.
Oh, I saw that. That's funny, right? So it never made it anywhere? Like, is it on YouTube or anywhere?
No, it's not even on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. We're trying to figure out a way to get the rights to it now. That's a longer story, but fell in love with filmmaking and launched a production company as a result. And so that's how we got into Rally On. That's a long, rambling way to get to your point of like, how does Deloitte inform my business?
Yeah, but it's a really fun way. And then how did you, you did it twice?
So we did these 2 trips. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't mean to get in the weeds, but you literally, how many hours a day were you driving?
On the Mongol Rally, we were probably driving 6 to 8 hours a day.
6 to 8 hours a day, and then you would just find a spot, stop.
We would literally pull over on the side of the road and pitch a tent and hope we didn't get murdered.
Wow.
And, and this was in we were in Tajikistan bordering Afghanistan. We camped on the border of Afghanistan one night.
Wow.
We could see it across the river. We could throw a stone there.
Yeah.
Really, interesting for us. And then another night in that same country, we were like a little nerd. It got dark and we didn't know where to camp. And we pulled over and we were just like, what do we do? And then we hear someone say, can I help you? And we're in the middle of Central Asia where not a single person is speaking English. We're in rural Tajikistan.
Yeah.
And the guy comes out and says, can I help you? And we're like, what? Why are you speaking English? And this was a Tajik man, he was technically Pamiri, which is a part of Tajikistan, who was studying in the US and was back for the first time in 3 years and was there for a brief period of time and heard people speaking English, came out, there was a wedding going on and they invited us in to be special guests at the wedding. We ended up staying at their house and it was unbelievable. And that kind of thing happened all the time.
Right. How many years ago did you do this again? Sorry.
That was about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, like, can you imagine doing that today and all the different ways that you could have kind of made some more life out of this, right? Through YouTube, through all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it was. The company we were working with was like, don't post anything on social media because then we won't be able to sell the show, which was, it was not very forward thinking of them. And so it would be completely different today for sure.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get the rights to it at some point. Like, if they're not going to do anything with it, I don't understand that sort of side of the business, but it seems crazy they would hold on to something knowing they'll never do anything with it, right? So, all right. So we talked about that. So that's how you transitioned from. So you get your sort of experience filming, right? Creating travel documentaries, essentially getting really comfortable with this. And we were going to talk a little bit today, like, how did that? So when you first started with Rally On Media, what kind of video production were you doing? Obviously, I feel like crowdfunding, we're going to talk about this, really has started to take off, but you've been doing this for a while. So what were you doing at first?
So we were doing brand documentary films at first.
Okay.
So we had, my co-founder and I, when we got back from those trips, actually I was traveling with 2 other friends, we launched a content series called Nowhere Men, where we made documentaries, day in the lifestyle documentaries about interesting people around New York City, which is where we live.
Yeah.
The reason we did that is because we said, well, we really love traveling. We really love telling people stories. These guys are going to be editing this show for a really long time. And maybe if we had a social media audience, we could help them sell it. And, we can kind of travel the entire world in New York City. We can go to every country by meeting people from those places. And so we launched this documentary series, got pretty popular. We had about 250,000 followers who were following our documentaries. And then we transitioned that into doing those documentaries for brands. So we got hired by Grubhub to do a few documentaries about restaurant owners and delivery drivers.
Nice.
They really liked that content. In fact, the first video we ever made for them was about a delivery driver, and their CEO, who had been running the business for 20 years, showed the documentary, which we filmed on our iPhones because we were so broke at the time. Filmed it on our iPhones, and he showed it at their all hands and said, this is the best story we've ever told as a business. And he was the founder of the company from 20 years prior.
Wow.
And so they kind of started hiring us to do all sorts of stuff. And we went from doing short little documentaries to short social ads to kind of at our peak with them. We don't work with them anymore, but at our peak with them, we were shooting their Olympics commercials that were airing broadcast during the Olympics on NBC.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow. Okay. And so let's talk a little bit about how did this transition go from, so you had a lot of success for Grubhub. So let's call that kind of the consumer side, or so lots going on there. And then how did you transition into working with companies on the crowdfunding side?
This was in 2020 during the pandemic. Everything's locked down, but companies are raising money. Companies are raising a lot of money because of stimmy checks.
Yeah.
And, there was a company in New York City who needed a video, and Start Engine had a bunch of video teams, but they couldn't film it because of quarantine issues.
Yeah.
And so they found us online because of our documentaries that we were making, and said, hey, could you help make a video for this company? And we said, sure. And so we scripted it out, we made it, we produced it, we edited it, and that campaign launched, and they ended up raising with that video, over the course of a few raises, $9 million.
Wow.
And the Start Engine team really was like, this is a great video, can you do that again? And we worked with another company, they raised $1.8 million. We worked with another company, they raised $20 million. And at this point, people started saying, okay, Rallion somehow knows how to do these videos really well.
Yeah.
And then we kind of I wouldn't say all in, but I personally went all in on crowdfunding, getting to really know the space in and out, getting to know how these raises work, getting to know the people in the industry. And we've been now doing this for, over 4 years.
Yeah, okay. So that's kind of amazing. It's like, for us, just obviously, us, and we have a sort of media company. I think it's really sort of come in light over the last year and a half, where I feel like all of a sudden, or maybe it's just because people found out who we were and we could be a decent channel as they're doing the crowdfunding. So it's crazy. I mean, knock on wood, it's been great. We have run a lot of campaigns, and we're having a lot of success for companies that are running with us, but it's amazing, kind of just funny how it came out of nowhere. I wouldn't have known unless, you start hearing about it from companies that come to us, right?
It's really interesting because there's a lot of ways. When you run a crowdfunding campaign, no two campaigns kind of succeed in the same way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tactics that you need to try and use, and some are, more based on targeting a company's customers, and others are about, trying to target investors on a specific platform. And then others, it's like, we need to get this message out to as many people as possible who have never heard of us. And that's where, more paid marketing comes into play. And,
right.
It's turned out that really great, high quality newsletters with high quality readers can be a great channel.
Yeah. Knock on wood. I hope we continue to be. That's right. So as you've been doing more and more about this, you were saying, right, is there's no sort of set formula when you think about, whatever your KPI is, whether that's conversion or click through, obviously getting people to fund these things, right, with their own money. Are there any sort of things that you've learned through these years doing this now as you've done more and more of them? There are certain things that work for you, or is it just like a creative experience where every company's different?
So I think it's probably worthwhile just saying what type of crowdfunding we're talking about here. Yeah. So I specialize in equity crowdfunding, which is helping companies raise capital from a broad audience.
Yep.
Investors who are investing to get equity in a company, as opposed to a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo, where you invest to get the product early or get a discount or whatever. Right. So that's called reward crowdfunding. We do equity crowdfunding, and they require different approaches. I mean, at the core of what we do, and the reason I think we've been successful in the space, is that storytelling's in our DNA. And so fundraising is a process of storytelling, right?
Yeah, right, sure.
Painting a vision of the future and how that's going to be better both for the world and financially for your investors, and then getting people on board, right?
Yeah.
And so we start with that story, and then there's all of these different channels that we use, all these different tactics how we use that story to bring in investors. And our core, our goal, our metric is investment, right? That's right. Everything goes back to that, is how much money are we raising for these companies and how much are they spending to do it, right? So it's ROI on us and investment. In terms of how the campaigns work, there is a playbook within which we operate, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
a within which we have to be very flexible. So there are certain things we know we need to do. We need to be able to reach out to the founders network. We need to be able to have a strategy if we're raising on a platform that has investors, how we're going to reach out to them. We're going to be running webinars. We're going to be doing some paid advertising. But paid advertising can work really well for some companies, especially ones that are like really sexy, really interesting, flying cars and robotics and things. And then for other, like maybe a medicine, maybe paid advertising is not going to work as well, or maybe a software service is not going to work as well. And so you try other strategies, you try newsletters, you try pitch events, whatever it is. We're pretty broad to raise the capital for our clients.
When you talk about it, you were saying it like there's equity crowdfunding and then there's reward crowdfunding. Does it ever mix? Do companies do a little bit of both, or is it really one or the other?
Companies do go. We actually worked with a company this year. We worked with them on a WeFunder campaign. And then right after they launched a Kickstarter, and we worked on the Kickstarter with them too. And we invested. So yeah.
There you go. That's pretty much that's about the strongest endorsement you can get, right? The fact that you guys actually did all the work and then you invested.
Yeah.
Do you guys, as a company, are you sort of full service? Are you also executing these campaigns from a marketing standpoint, or are you just doing creative?
Yeah. So we originally were just doing the creative, and now we are actually running full campaigns. So we develop all the assets. There's quite a lot that goes into just getting a campaign ready to launch.
Yeah.
Building the strategy, and then we're actually executing on the strategy to raise that money.
So I know you work with some other companies, and so it's curious. So do you do both? Do you find that you're a video production service for other agencies that do this, and then are you doing it as a full service yourself, or is that mix sort of like? Do I have that right? Actually, I was right. Like because obviously we got introduced. Me thinking that you were more of a service for another company that we work with. So I don't know really how that sort of works.
Yeah, we're in all sorts of interesting.
Okay.
We do everything on our own.
Yeah.
Other agencies hire us to do videos. Other platforms hire us to do their videos. Other platforms hire us to do the white label work. We're doing all sorts of things. So like we have previously we had no competition really because there's like we were so and are so dominant on the video side of things.
Yeah.
There was a lot of agencies, and now that we're doing more of the like marketing work that a full service agency would do.
Yeah.
We're kind of like in co-opetition with a lot of people.
Right. That's a great word. That's right.
It's like there is some competition, but we still work with them. So it's like, we're doing our best to really maintain great relationships across the space.
Man, that's so interesting, right? Like you don't really hear this a lot, the idea that you can both help and sort of do a lot of the same work yourself. I mean, I guess you see it, but it's pretty interesting.
We'll see how it goes. I don't know. It's new.
Yeah. No, it's all new, right? You're just trying to figure it all out. It seems that's what it seems like to me too. So how do you balance that? So how big is your company?
We've got about 9 employees, but small, 3 full-time only.
Okay, right. That's a little like us. We have a little more than 3 full-time, but we only have about 6 people. Obviously, ours is not as complicated as yours. We're just building newsletters. Not to say that that's something, but we're not producing video work. How do you balance it? Who is it? You that's balancing both producing video and going out and finding clients?
So I'm mostly on the sales side of things.
Okay.
I have a head of a director of operations who, when we sell a project, especially a video project, I let him know, and then we have a team of producers. Since our core business has historically been film production, film is a freelancer industry, and so we have many producers who execute our projects. We have copywriters, we have editors, and so when a project comes in, it gets staffed with a producer who's kind of the account manager, and they execute on everything, make it happen. And then on the marketing side of things, I'm much more involved in that since it is newer and we're kind of doing service development at the same time as we're doing service delivery. Yeah.
Okay. And so then how do you, this is a question for everybody, right? Like how do you, when you're going out and trying to find companies, how are you differentiating yourself from the competition? Like how do you approach that? Obviously you have great strength in video production, right? That's got to be a big strength for you when you're going to talk to them. But what else do you have to think about or do to differentiate yourself from these other agencies that are doing the same work?
That's a great question. And it's something that I've had to be very focused on as we're pitching, because we're like the newest agency in the space, and people say, well, how can I trust that you can actually do this? And, I think there's a few reasons. Number one, and this is what we've been told, is that we're just we're the best storytelling agency in the space. And so I mentioned we start with story.
Yeah.
And so we make sure we nail that and get that right. Because if you get that wrong from the beginning, then nothing else works.
Yep, sure. That makes sense.
You want on your ads, you can get as many newsletter placements as you want.
Yeah.
You're not telling a good story, it's not going to drive results. And so we start with the story in a way that I think no one else does quite like us. And then we institute playbooks that we've developed with the support of the platforms. Because we've been such a great partner to the platforms, we've worked very closely with various platforms to develop our strategy. And they're like transparently helping us along the way as we launch all these services. And so far it's going great. We launched a campaign and in 3 months raised $700,000 for them. We've got a campaign we're working with right now that they're about to cross 500K. And in the past month probably a month and a half, we've raised like 300K for them. And the momentum's picking up. So it's exciting.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. I know that you've raised a lot of money collectively for a lot of companies. And has that in any way changed your approach or how you approach clients and or the way that you're doing your storytelling? Like, meaning, when you have success behind certain ways that you approach things, does it kind of influence other ones, or do you really sort of look at them all holistically and differently?
We know where we're going to start, right? We're going to come with a perspective on how this raise should go and what's going to work.
Yeah.
And then, the rubber hits the road and we react to what we're actually facing. Yeah. We always have a standard approach that, that we're not coming in blind for like, let's build this from the ground up.
Yep, that makes sense. Do you have any moments like from any of your videos? I talked about this obviously because you're creative and you're a great storyteller. Do you have any past clients that come to mind where you knew that when you produced it, you had that, like we said, that sort of lump in the throat moment where you're like, you totally nailed it and it proved to be, what you thought and had great success? Like, what are some of your great past client success stories?
Yeah, I mean, the lump in throat phrase comes from a famous American journalist, Bob Dotson.
Okay.
Who has been on PBS morning news for 50 years.
Oh wow.
For CBS, I'm not doing him justice right now, but he wrote a book that I bought when I first started creating content 10 years ago called Make It Memorable. And he talked about the lump in throat moment, which is when you're creating a video specifically, but a piece of content when you're interviewing someone. Yeah. And you're asking questions, there might be a moment where suddenly you feel that lump in your throat where you're getting emotional. And he's like, when that happens, do not let that go.
Yeah, right.
We're feeling that, other people will.
Yeah.
And so as a storyteller, we're always looking for those emotional moments, because even though investments are, financial purchases that you're making to receive a financial return, it's extremely emotional as well.
Yep.
And so, we're running a campaign right now by a doctor who has helped thousands of people. And most of the people who are investing are just saying, I'm investing because you helped my mom live 4 years more. Or,
right.
I'm investing because you helped me survive. The doctor said I had a few months left and I followed your advice instead and I'm still here. I saw that today. So those are lump and throat moments, but I think about one, it often happens in the space of healthcare because it is so emotional about what people are doing. But we worked with a company called Epi1, which I love this company. They're a very early stage, but the founder is the former chairman of the American Cancer Society. And he worked with someone who developed a brand new way to test for cancer, lots of cancers in very early stage through a blood test that's very affordable. They're not on market, they're building that out, but his wife passed away from cancer, or his first wife passed away from cancer.
Wow.
So this is he's a very smart guy, he's a very successful businessman, but this company is personal to him.
Sure, absolutely.
Or that everyone knows that he's not just a successful businessman who can execute, but he's in it for more than just the money. And I even get it now thinking about it.
Yeah, right. That has to come through for sure. That's really cool. You had a great post on LinkedIn that I saw that talked about the differences between raising money traditionally through equity through VCs, and then obviously through crowdfunding. Mm-hmm. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that more. When you're approaching clients potentially to work with. Are you approaching clients that already bought into crowdfunding, or are you approaching clients that are looking to raise money and you have to convince them of the benefits of crowdfunding? And then if you want, I'd love for you to, if you don't mind, I think you did a really great job on your LinkedIn post talking about the differences. It'd be great for you to talk about that here too. But I was always very curious if that's what you have to contend with when you're trying to bring on a client, or are these clients that already know the benefits of crowdfunding?
Everyone we're selling is considering crowdfunding. Not everyone is sold on it. And so it is an active conversation that we have all the time with people. And after talking to me, some people say, you know what, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to go raise VC. And other people say I do. And I think it's important to be clear-eyed about what you're doing, because there are trade-offs. I think there are a lot of really great reasons to do it. And I think there are plenty of trade-offs that for some companies, it makes no sense. And so, when I think about, I tried to be fairly objective in that post, talking about why raise from each.
Oh, I thought you were. It was great.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm obviously biased for crowdfunding.
Yeah.
But
sure.
From VC, if you think about what are the pros of it, well, one of the first ones is you can raise a lot of money really quickly, right? You get very large checks from people who can write very large checks, and a bunch of people can write them. That is a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Another benefit is that you're getting people involved in your company who have, hopefully, if they're top tier firms, really great connections and also really good advice, and can really help you in your growth. And then the third is that, this is more specifically when you're raising from top tier firms, but there's prestige associated with raising from VC, which I think, it depends on who you're raising from, but it's, obviously founders want to say I raised a big round from VC. It brings attention.
Yeah, right. There's a little ego there, right? Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. On the downside, you are giving up a lot of control of your business. You're often giving up a board seat. VCs are going to be able to set better terms for themselves than what maybe you would want. Yeah. And so you're giving up a lot of control of your business in that process. And I think those are probably the major downsides. And then also, a really big one is VCs have a different timetable than you might have for growth. And so they may push you to grow in ways that you as a founder do not want to grow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It may be harmful for the long-term sustainability of the business, but might be better for the short term. The investor. And so I think those are kind of the pros and cons there. With equity crowdfunding, if I start with the cons, it can take time. It takes time to raise from the crowd because you're looking for lots of little checks. And so the average campaign is like 6-ish months, which the average fundraise should hopefully be shorter. But these days, I meet people who have been fundraising for years. So it varies a lot. Then the other thing is it costs money to raise from the crowd. There's a bunch of fees that go into it. You have to pay the platforms where you're raising money fees. And then you can do it on your own if you've got a really big community. But if you're trying to reach broader communities, the most successful companies almost always are working with a marketing agency like us, who's been there on that. It's much harder to succeed on your own. And I'm not just saying that because that's what we do, it's just what you see. And it's the reason that the platforms refer people to us, because they see that people are successful when they work with agencies. And then there is still some stigma associated with this of like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this instead of raising from VC? Could you not raise from VC? Is your business not good enough?
Yeah, right.
The truth is there are some companies that are like that, but more and more I'm seeing companies that are just like, I did the VC thing in my last company. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to deal with that. And so you're seeing a lot of really interesting, exciting companies. And then you see some really big companies who want their customers in, like a Substack, like a Mercury Bank, who are doing big rounds with VC concurrently and offering the community a way in. Now, why would you do this? Why would you do crowdfunding? Number one, you're not just getting investors. You are getting an army of brand advocates.
Right.
Potentially thousands of new people you don't know who these people are. They might be someone living in their mom's basement who decides to invest in you. They might be someone who can introduce you to the CEO of the Mayo Clinic, which happened to a med device company. They got an intro to the CEO of a Mayo Clinic from like $1,000 investor.
Wow.
And that company has a partnership with the Mayo Clinic.
The
surface area of serendipity that you create by doing a crowdfunding campaign is
I love that.
Number two, it's typically more founder friendly because the founders can have much more control over the terms they set. Now, campaigns go wrong. Founders may take this to an extreme sometimes where they set like a valuation that's just absurd for the investors, and they often suffer for it. But you do have more control over setting those terms in terms of valuation and share price. And then you're not giving up a board seat. And
Right.
so you maintain full control of the business. So it's
Yep.
money for the founders. You're building this huge like advocate list who can help you in ways you never expected. And then what happens, which is really cool, is if your business is actually succeeding, you can open up subsequent rounds, and those people who invested previously, there's a good chance they're going to invest again.
Yeah.
So you create
Right.
this awesome investor community.
Right. They're like fans, right? And not only are they investing, but they're just fans of the company, right? That totally makes sense. That's great. It's really, really good. Do you find that from a paid standpoint, have you learned through this experience that are there any channels or anything that surprised you about when you approach it? Do you approach raising money for these companies more along the lines of finding the right audience, or has it become more about you knowing that a certain medium or a certain platform is very effective regardless? How does that work?
It's kind of both.
Okay.
I think that we look at the company and see, well, what do you have? What do you have that we can run this raise on? And so I mentioned this company right now that we're working with, where a lot of their investors are people whose lives or their family's lives have been saved by the founder.
Yeah.
We haven't done an ounce of paid marketing for them. It's been purely marketing to their email list and to their own WeFunder and the WeFunder community. And we're going to hit 500K today. And so, yeah, no paid advertising. For another company that we're setting up right now, it's basically going to be 100% paid advertising because they have no community and they're doing a raise on a self-hosted platform where there's no investors built in that we can reach out to. So it's going to be, starting off all paid ads and newsletters.
Yep. Got it. Okay. All right. Makes sense. That's great. Okay. Switching gears. That was all really good. From a personal standpoint, I'm big. I always like to talk about this a little bit. I'm a big sort of habit guy. Like I have certain habits that I do every day. I get up every day. I drink my coffee. I exercise. I have a certain way that I manage my business. Do you have any habits that sort of you've either learned through either you probably learned through the experience you had doing the race around the world or running this company, or do you have certain habits that are like just ironstone habits that you do every day that sort of set you up for success?
That's a great question. I go through phases where I have my solid routine, and then there's times where it's completely fallen apart.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm kind of in the middle.
Oh, okay.
In the sense of, I've got my workout routine where I work out 4 times a week. I do it 7 in the morning, so I'm waking up at 6 most days.
Yep.
I've been trying to wake up even earlier, like 5:30, to get meditation in, because that's a habit that's fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, that's hard.
In my highest form, it's waking up and doing meditation for half an hour, and then to the gym, showering up, getting to work. I've been working really hard on first thing when I get to work, not jumping into it, but prioritizing the day.
Yeah.
I'm like 6 months into following getting things done. I feel like I'm super late to it.
Oh, okay.
Transformative for me in terms of like actually managing my workload and knowing what I'm supposed to be doing at any given time.
That's great.
And so, yeah, like getting things done is currently my personal habit list. And then I've, on a company level, implemented EOS at basically the same time that I implemented getting things done for myself. And I see them as kind of like, EOS is like the company version of personal getting things done.
Yeah, that's smart. No, I totally get it. Do you have to think about here, actually switching back a little bit, when you think about approaching business, having an agency like this, so as a salesperson, right, we run a company that, as you know, has single ads that run in each of our newsletters, and we have probably 70 ads a month that we run across the 4 newsletters, and obviously the price points are very different, and the sell is a bit simpler, but we have to think about it almost in a volume play, right? So we know we have to reach out to a certain amount of brands on a near daily basis in order for us to make and achieve selling all of our inventory on a monthly basis. So you just can't sort of, you have to reach out to a certain amount every day. Like that's just kind of how you know you're moving the needle. So I talk about it all the time. People that listen to this probably get sick of it, but I have a clicker that I use, and the clicker basically is this $6 clicker from Amazon that I make sure that I reach out to 20, 25 clients a day, and it basically asks them for money, right? Like in some sort of form. And I know that sort of process and that volume helps us achieve our goals. How do you think about that when you have an agency like yours? I mean, obviously you can't do 70 campaigns a month, or maybe you can, but how do you think about reaching out to clients and making sure that you're doing enough of that, as well as doing the work that you have to do?
I'm not going to have a good answer for you here.
Okay.
Not great at.
Okay. Yeah.
All of our work pretty much is referrals.
Okay. Oh, well, that's good too. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So our whole business right now is referrals. And I think it's like we've got a really healthy pipeline at the moment that
that's great.
That's working for us.
Yeah.
And like, in fact, we've been turning down a few deals who just like don't seem like good fits.
Yeah.
But get back to me in like a year, and I'll have a clicker, and I'll be saying I'm doing exactly what you
No, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. I mean, if I had it my way, right, I would be just fighting off inbounds all the time, right? But we don't. We get a little bit, but we don't get much of that at all. So that's great. You have a good problem. Good for you. But yeah, happy to share with you my click method theory if that ever is something that you need. But hopefully you won't need it for a long time. You're just basically getting lots of inbounds and you're turning them away. So that's great. All right, last question for you. Do you have any favorite podcasts, any favorite books that you read that's like go-tos for you?
Ooh, like business books?
Could be personal too.
This past 12 months has been the year of fantasy sci-fi for me.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's very cool.
Just gone incredibly deep into, there was a series called Red Rising that I and read. There were like 6 books in probably 3 months. And then I finished that and started reading Brandon Sanderson, which Mistborn series, which I finished the first trilogy. And so that, honestly, I have so many business books and personal development books, and it feels really good to get into just fiction.
Oh, yeah. Just like shut your brain off, right? Like I do that too. I read like 15, 20 pages a day of just like a page turner, because I think it's just really good for you to have hobbies like that or whatever it is to sort of shut you off from business.
Feels good. My favorite business book is Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara.
Oh, yeah.
I've actually, my entire company read the book, and we are implementing all sorts of processes, and we have implemented all sorts of processes and approaches from that book into our business to make ourselves an unreasonably hospitable business.
Yeah. That's a good thing. I love that. That's great. All right. Well, I told you I'd keep it to like 40, 45 minutes. So that's what we did. This was really good. I love learning about Rally On. I love the process. It's such a neat story of how it sort of came about. And obviously, I know that we've been having dialogue and we'll continue to, but like very excited for you and nice to learn a little bit more about like all of this crowdfunding and kind of where it's going. And I totally appreciate all the time today. So great for us. This is like our first conversation. So great to finally like meet and definitely looking forward to having more of them.
I appreciate it, Sean. This was fun. And I'm excited to be working together more.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. Special shout out to Elijah who helped me put it together. I hope you liked it. If you have any comments or questions, I'd love to hear from you. You can leave a comment in the section below, or you can reach out to me directly. And I hope you'll make it to the next one.